Greetings of the day to all the Physio TV viewers. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Utkarsha, an assistant professor at NGM School of Physiotherapy, Aurangabad. Ma'am is dedicated to helping people with chronic pain through her clinical expertise, research, and holistic care. Ma'am is also a teacher and designs engaging lessons that build critical thinking, clinical reasoning, and ethics. And ma'am is preparing students to deliver high quality patient care, and she'll be taking a lesson on hip avascular necrosis, the risks associated with it, triggers and strategies for prevention. I hand over the screen to ma'am.
Now, these are some common infections that are linked to the avian in future. First is TB of the hip, or that is tuberculosis of the hip. Viral fevers includes hepatitis, dengue or Epstein-Barr virus, HIV infections and recently COVID-19. Now let's move to an important but overlooked factor in the pathogenesis of the avascular necrosis, that is addictions, intravenous drug use and corticosteroid misuse. We'll see one by one how this contributes to the development of the avian. First, we'll see the chronic alcohol consumption. How consumption of the alcohol leads to the necrosis of the head of the femur. Excessive use of alcohol leads to the fat embolism, hyperlipidemia and the bone marrow adipocyte hypertrophy, which interrupts the blood flow through the vessels and ultimately affects the reduced blood supply to the hip joint. Now, studies have shown that consuming more than 400 ml of alcohol per week significantly increases the risk of avian, highlighting the dose-dependent nature of this association. Now, the second overlooked cause is intravenous drug use. Intravenous drug use significantly increase the risk of infections such as in HIV or hepatitis, which are directly linked through avian through the systemic and metabolic insults. So the chronic inflammatory state further exacerbate microvascular compromise. The third cause is corticosteroid misuse. How the corticosteroid causes avian? We can see in bodybuilders or athletes, it is very common to take anabolic steroids. Steroid misuse, what it does to the body, it causes the fat cell proliferation in the bone marrow, which leads to the raised intraosseous pressure. So it also increases the blood viscosity and reduces the nitric oxide availability. So due to increase in the intraosseous pressure, that may damage the blood vessels in the compartment, which may leads to the avian. So, and here an important clinical point to remember is, if there is a combination of the steroid use along with the addictions such as alcohol, smoking, it has a cumulative effect which is huge. That is, these such patients have higher chances to get avian. So till now we have understood the pathophysiology of the avian, the basic anatomy, its course, its cascade, what are the risk factors, what are the clinical features, and how addictions and infection contribute to the development of the avian. Now, from the theoretical part, let's shift to the clinical perspective of the avian. Now, in clinical perspective, we are going to see primarily the diagnostic procedures or diagnostic approaches and the management strategies and the prevention strategies for the avian. So, as a clinician, we often say, or we often heard, avian is silent, but it turned out destructive in the earlier stages. So this holds true also, because clinical features may be vague in the beginning, but once the collapse sets in, that is, once the patient has progressed from stage 1 to stage 3, then the secondary osteoarthritis, or we can say the avian, is inevitable. So how do we approach the diagnosis of the avian? Let's see. There are various diagnostic approaches for the avian, such as clinical examination, thorough history taking, X-rays, MRIs and bone scan. But here MRI is considered as a gold standard. Why? Because it detects the avian at the early stage. If we ask patient to take X-ray in stage 1 or stage 2, then the changes may not be evident on the X-ray and we might overlook or miss the diagnosis. So MRI should be recommended for the avian patients if they want a sure shot diagnosis and prevent its further progression. Now bone scans can also be used. What bone scan shows us? It shows the areas of increased or decreased blood flow in that specific region. So we can say altogether these tools form the backbone of the early decision making strategies for the avian. And why all this is important? Because management differs dramatically in early and the late stages. Mostly in stage 1 and stage 2 can be managed by conservative management, physiotherapy, pharmacotherapy, or we can say joint preservation techniques. But once the patient crosses stage 1 and stage 2, then it cannot be manageable by the conservative approach. It has to be with the surgical approach, or in later stages at the end, the total hip replacement. So essentially the bottom line here is the diagnosis, it's not just about the labeling the disease, but it is also saving the joint in case of avian. Now the management of the avian is broadly categorized into two, surgical and non-surgical. So here we are going to focus about the non-surgical management strategies for the avian. So in this segment, we'll look into the spectrum of the management, such as conservative management, physiotherapy management, and see how best we can preserve the function and the quality of life of the patients with avian. Now, various non-surgical management includes conservative measures, in that activity modification. We ask our patient to reduce the weight bearing and protect the joint. Certain pain management modalities can be used if patient exhibited pain, such as through NSAIDs, which is the pharmacotherapy, and adjunct physical therapy for the functional support. In that we can use TENS, IFT, heat therapy or cold therapy. Now in this stage, primarily in stage 1 and stage 2, physical therapy forms the cornerstone here. The main aim behind the physiotherapy is, first is to maintenance of range of motion, first is unloading the joint so that to prevent this progression, then the strengthening of the surrounding musculature around the hip, improvement of the balance and the functional mobility, and we can say the overall mobility. Now let's see the physical therapy management in different stages of the avian. So if a patient in early avian, or we can say stage 1 or 2 comes to us, then what would be our management strategy? First and foremost, the management strategy depends upon what are the clinical features or the chief complaint that the patient sees. Definitely patient is going to have pain, so here we can use different modalities such as TENS, heat or cold therapy, joint unloading techniques to prevent the further progression of the joint. Activity modifications can be prescribed to the patient, such as patient should avoid the high impact or loading activities such as running, jumping, or standing for a prolonged period of time. Protected weight bearings can be advised with the help of crutches or canes, so that there will be a reduced loading on the joint. Third approach we can adopt is to have a targeted strengthening of the glutes, core, quadriceps to reduce the joint load, and range of motion maintenance with the general hip mobility. Now the overall aim for this stage, first is to preserve the joint function as long as possible and to delay the collapse or the replacement of the hip joint. Now the next stage, physical therapy, how it is important, or what roles it plays in intermediate and advanced stages. So in intermediate stages, we can give patient gait training to minimize the limp and the improve function. Hydrotherapy or pool exercises can be given as a low impact strengthening with less weight bearing conditions. Balanced and proprioceptive trainings can be incorporated to improve the proprioception of the joint, and education on posture, ergonomics and activity modification is very, very crucial at every stage of the avian. Now if the patient has progressed to stage 3 or 4 and has undergone total hip replacement, then the post-surgical management differs. So after the decompression, we can start with the gradual weight bearing rehab. If the patient had hip replacement, then we can start with the standard total hip replacement rehab protocol, and at the end, functional retaining for return to daily activities and vocational rehab as needed can be prescribed. Now, this is nothing but a flow chart, or we can say the stage or phase wise protocol of the post-op AVN. Phase 1 includes the early post-op rehab, which primarily includes pain management, protected weight bearing and gentle range of motion. Phase 2 includes progressive strengthening with gradual increasing in the weight bearing and strengthening exercises for the hip and core. Stage 3 includes functional integration, such as including functional activity in the rehab. If patient is any player or any sports person, then we can include the sports specific or activity specific drills in the rehab protocol. And last one is the long-term monitoring, that is regular follow-ups, imaging and lifestyle modification are necessary in order to prevent its progression and to cope up with the replacement surgeries. Now we'll see the implications for the clinical practice. What we learn from this talk so that we can implement in our clinical practice. First is, it is very important to take comprehensive history, because patients with hip pain should always be screened for the infection history, steroid exposure, alcohol intake and the systemic illnesses. Early screening here is the key. It can be done with the help of MRI in those with suspected risk profiles, specifically with the patients who had any previous history of infection or who has any severe addictions. Now, third one is careful medication management. Steroid must be used carefully, justified and monitored, particularly in the post-infectious recovery. And fourth one is screening for the addictions. If anyone is having any addiction, then we can incorporate the routine alcohol use screening into the musculoskeletal assessment, especially in the young adult with unexplained AVN. So the key takeaways from today's talk is early diagnosis is paramount. That is, it will be crucial for the effective hip preservation. Second one is the management of the AVN is multifaceted. It involves the combination of conservative as well as the surgical strategies. Third one, rehab is essential. Why? To maximize the functional outcome and to prevent the progression of the disease if it is diagnosed in the early stages. And last one is the patient education, which is critical for the risk factor modification and adherence to the treatment. So the take home message here is AVN, it is silent early and destructive later. So we should think MRI for young patients with unexplained hip pain. Second, early detection is the key for the hip preservation. Third one is steroid, alcohol, infection and COVID-19 are the key red flags. So we need to screen it very thoroughly while taking the history. Last one is, if the AVN is detected late, then replacement is the option. So the tagline or the important message from today's talk would be catch it early and save the joint. Thank you very much. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Sancheti College of Physiotherapy for providing me with this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Utkarsha, for a wonderful session on hip avascular necrosis. And I want to thank Parag sir, Chairman, Sancheti Hospitals, Manisha ma'am, Chairperson of Sancheti Healthcare Academy, and Dr. Radha madam for Principal, Sancheti College of Physiotherapy. Thank you.